Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another episode of the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, joined in studio by my buddy, my pal, my friend, my fellow Massachusetts person, Connor Morrissette. Call him Triple Double. What's up, Connor? How you doing, man?
Doing well, Ryan. Good to be here. We got a lot to talk about, even though it's the end of January. Football season just ended, but as we know, it never really ends around here, right?
It does not end. He's got the cropped haircut a little bit going.
Yep.
I got a haircut, but I didn't get cropped. I didn't go like military man, but good stuff. Yeah, that's the first time I could do like the Hello Trojan fans for a while. I've been a little under the weather. Last time, a couple of times I tried it, didn't work out very well. But this should be a very fun show. We're doing an evening show because earlier today, we got to talk with USC's newest hire, the defensive coordinator, Gary Patterson, for about 40 minutes. It was crazy. A really long press conference. It wasn't live. It's up on YouTube now on our YouTube channel at Inside Troy if you want to check out the entire press conference. We recorded it, put it up there for you. I think the audio sounds good. We had a special microphone for it, so hopefully that works out well for you. But we're going to talk about everything that we heard from that. Also, the Big Ten schedule release earlier in the week. Lots of stuff to get to today. Get to your questions. We are live on YouTube. Smash that like. Smash that subscribe, as our buddy Chip Patterson likes to say. We're on Facebook as well. You can like us over there. Subscribe to our channel. We love to hear from you. And any comments, questions, concerns you can put up there in the chat box for either platform, and I will try to put it up on the screen. Star your questions. We'll get to it later, and anything funny you say along the way or something that's relevant to what we're talking about, I will put up. We are also, because it's an evening show, why the hell not? Let's take live calls. 5124-TUNNEL. We're going to take your live calls, see how that works. Should be a lot of fun. You got Apple, you got Spotify. We'd love to get 5-star ratings from you because that's always fun. We got a new rating, Connor.
All right.
5 stars on Apple. Best USC football news out there. This is from Braden Ross. Ryan and the crew, you're part of the crew, I think, do a fantastic job covering USC football, more specifically. Been a member of the P since 2021, and it's my favorite listen. Fight on. Well, thanks so much. It's Braden, I think. Braden Ross. Braden, I want to send you a Trader Joe's gift card. So email me, ryan@uscfootball.com. Said if you guys are going to leave us a 5-star review, we want to send you a gift card from Trader Joe's. We're going to do that. So send me your snail mail, your regular mail, and I'll do that. And speaking of Trader Joe's, Connor, I had a pretty epic meal day going for Trader Joe's. You remember we have a friend. I'm not going to name any names. We have a friend that works in the press box who likes to come and chat a little bit. Maybe he works there with Pete Arbogast. I think you know who I'm talking about. But our buddy, during one of the games, gave me like this little package with like an Asian sauce that would go with like tofu. Just randomly, I'm like, hey, you want to try this? I'm like, okay. So I go to Trader Joe's. You need a little ground beef. So I bought like a pound of ground beef. I love the Trader Joe's ground beef. And I'm not a big tofu guy, but I found these Dutch yellow baby potatoes that they're really small potatoes, and you can cook them a whole bunch of different ways. I'm like, I'm going to try that. It was really good. It was a spicy sauce, and I put browned the ground beef a little bit, made the sauce, and then cut up the Dutch yellow baby potatoes and put them in there, and it was really good. But you only need a little bit of the meat, the ground beef. So then I made some homemade meatballs, and that was awesome too. And I used the if you go to I love the fresh pasta at Trader Joe's. You get the cheese tortellini, a jar of the sauce, and I just made the meatballs. I don't brown them or anything, and I just put the sauce, cooked it, and cooked the meatballs in the sauce with a little egg and some breadcrumbs and some oregano, all that stuff, and it was really good. So I got 2 meals out of my ground beef from Trader Joe's, but it was a really good Trader Joe's week for me. I went to Trader Joe's, bought stuff, and then started cooking. It was great.
Amazing. As usual, you're making me hungry here as we doing the show around the dinner hour, so I'll have to get over there after the show, I think, and pick up some stuff because, I'm pretty hungry.
You're always hungry, but maybe
it's true.
Maybe we'll go to dinner and stuff afterwards. Jeff was here, Inside Troy After Dark. Yes, we were doing After Dark because we talked about the Gary Patterson press conference earlier today. We got a fight on everyone, and hello Ryan, a triple double from Mark, and then this is weird, Mr. Della SC. The Day I Walk Away is a pretty good song. Oh, that was something that was mentioned by Gary Patterson in the press conference. Do you remember that?
He does play the guitar, so is that an original from him?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's an original one, but yeah, he's big into music, but that was one of the songs that he had mentioned out there. So, and Franco 5, talk about the presser first. That's what we're going to do, M. Franco. We got to talk about the presser. We did have a question about, was it live? No live stream for the GP presser. No, USC didn't stream it this time, but we were told, and my plan was to live stream it. We normally live stream these things, but USC told us we couldn't do that. So we didn't stream it. We just recorded it and uploaded it. It's up on our Inside Troy now. But he's a talker. I don't know how many for 40 minutes. I don't know. Maybe there was 8 or 9 questions, or maybe 10. There wasn't that, but he definitely talked. Sometimes it wasn't necessarily about the exact question, but I was really impressed. He came away with a lot of cool stories, and just you just feel like, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. He's someone that's been around the block. He, going to be in the college football, or is in the College Football Hall of Fame. It's, I was pretty impressed coming out of this. And Lincoln Riley was there, and Jen Cohen was there, Chad Bowden was there, and Jay Hilbrands were there. Like, all the big wigs were there kind of watching. Lincoln stuck around to watch Gary Patterson talk, which I don't know if he's done that in the past, if I don't remember correctly. But it seemed like the people that were putting this on were pretty happy about it. Gary Patterson was like, hey, man, this is me. There was he wasn't pretentious or anything. He was just like, here's who I am, here's what I do. And the media seemed to eat it up. I mean, I thought it was a really successful press conference. I don't know what your thoughts were.
It's too early to say how successful he'll be, of course, but in terms of a first meeting, a lot to like. I thought one of the biggest things he talked about, the things USC fans will like to hear the most, he said his goal is to get the defense to the level of the USC offense. And he talked about how when he was a head coach at TCU, his most successful teams were the ones that had really good offenses because historically his defenses were always pretty good. And I went back and looked at some of what he did at the end of his tenure at TCU when the teams weren't as good, and he was absolutely right. The defensive statistics, they still held up. It was the offense that kind of tripped him up at the end of his tenure. So he's been out of football for a few years. He said the reason for that was because he wanted to be out of it for 3 years so then he could be elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. He's now in, so now he comes back. I don't really know exactly why he felt the need to take the 3 years off to get into the Hall of Fame right now, but that's what he wanted to do. So it also sounded like just this opportunity to work for Lincoln Riley, a guy who we got to know really well in the Big 12, made him happy. So I think for Lincoln, he went kind of with an outside-the-box hire with D'Anton Lynn, had some mixed results. Now this is a guy he's very familiar with in Gary Patterson, and the big question is, will Patterson still have his fastball? Will he be able to get the most out of a pretty young USC roster, especially on the defensive end, and how will it all mesh together with some of the assistants who are being retained and then some of the guys who are coming in like a Mike Eckler. So those are probably the biggest questions, but in terms of what I like the most, I loved hearing him say, I want to get the defense to the level of the offense at USC.
Yeah, that was certainly encouraging, and he emphasized more than once, it's like, it's not about, he doesn't care if you shut teams out. It's like you have to give up one less point than you score. So it was more about, it seemed like trying to marry something that's good and effective on the defensive side with the kind of offense that Lincoln Riley provides. And, when Lincoln Riley spoke, he talked about the fits that, Gary Patterson would give him as far as the defense goes. And Gary Patterson talked about, hey, I never beat him, but they had some close games. So there seemed to be mutual respect there, too. I don't know if you got that feeling.
Oh, for sure. And Patterson wouldn't be here if there wasn't mutual respect between those two. I think Riley was 8-0 all-time as a coordinator and head coach at Oklahoma against Patterson. But some of those games, Riley just had those stacked Oklahoma teams.
Yeah.
And TCU was just doing what they do, which is getting the most you possibly can out of the talent. Another interesting thing with Patterson, he talked about how this will be the biggest defensive front he's ever coached at USC. So he didn't name any players individually, but hearing him talk about the defensive front was interesting. And he mentioned how at TCU, because they didn't have those big fronts, he would really need to get aggressive with the secondary and try to confuse opposing offenses. He did the best job out of a lot of, or a very good job, I should say, out of a lot of coaches out there at doing more with less talent. And so the question now becomes, and Gerard our friend wrote this on our website, what can he do in a different situation? Because it's not always the case that just automatically means that, okay, now that you have better talent, you'll be able to get more out of your players. That's the big question too. This is probably, not probably, this will be the best group of players defensively that Patterson has had from a recruiting perspective. And how can he get it all to fit together? It's $1 million question. He talked about how, too, the kids haven't changed in his years of coaching, which I thought was funny because I feel like the high school recruit has changed a lot. But Patterson said, no, the guys who want to win, they'll do what I say, and the guys who don't won't. So definitely an old school coach, and we'll see how it works.
It sounded like he was coming in. Now, it's a different situation with he's not coming from a team where he was actually coaching right now and bringing his whole staff. He understood that the staff that's at USC, and he mentioned the recruiting aspect of it and the number one class a bunch. Hey, these are guys you want to keep. That he wants to come in and is not necessarily going to say, here's how we change everything. It's more about, okay, what do I like what you guys do? What do I do? Let's make it all work together. So it's not a coming in and tearing everything down and this is what I do. It was more of like, he talked about, the hours he's working right now, just trying to learn names and figure everything out and, see what he has. But it was more about coming in and adapting to what's at USC and making it all work. And it's, knowing that, it just seemed like that was the approach you need to take when you're not bringing in your whole staff the way he's not doing.
And you got to make the guys in the building who are being retained happy. The hope is that Eric Henderson will be back, and Patterson alluded to that. He mentioned Henderson by name. He was the only guy out of the potential returning coaches, Trevon Reed, Sean Nua, Rob Ryan, who we expect to not be a full-time coach but to still be back. None of those other guys were mentioned, but Henny was, and the fact that he was, and Patterson mentioned wanting to take some stuff from last year because he felt like what the staff did last year was good. That to me was like an olive branch to Henderson. Like, look, you didn't get this job. I got this job, but I value you. I see what you bring to USC. You guys did a lot of nice things a year ago. And that to me now is the next domino to fall, where Eric Henderson is not happy that he didn't get the defensive coordinator job. He does have a sizable buyout, but if it were up to him, it sounds like returning to the NFL is something that would appeal to him, make a lot of sense for him, and that's still kind of going on behind the scenes. So why does Patterson bring up Henderson? I think that has a lot to do with it, where they're still trying to keep him around because they know how valuable he is. But it's interesting because I asked how challenging is it to have kind of a hodgepodge of coaches where some guys are being retained, you're bringing in Mike Eckler, you're not bringing in that whole staff of your own guys. And Patterson, I asked him about the challenges and the benefits of that, and he said there are no challenges. And of course there are challenges when you're new and you're inheriting a staff. So that to me kind of made me think like, okay, they're still working on some stuff behind the scenes, which we know they are, but the fact that he said there are no challenges at all, like I would have appreciated, like, yeah, we got to figure some things out. We got to all get on the same page. But to say that there are no challenges, like, of course there are. So that kind of had my antenna go up a little bit, but outside of that, I think I'm with you. There was a lot to like.
Yeah, I really liked a lot what he had to say, and he said a lot. His wife was in attendance and talked about that. I mean, and one of the things he'd mentioned, Mike Eckler, and specifically coming in, he said he was going to help him with the linebackers, but that he took a Nebraska special teams unit that was bad.
Yep.
And turned it really good in one season. And he said he's got all the enthusiasm in the world. So he had a lot of nice things to say about Mike Eckler joining the staff.
He said, you don't need to give that guy a Red Bull, that's for sure. And there's a picture of Eckler, a couple, like when he was at Kansas State, there's a good example when he was at Tennessee. But when he was a player at Kansas State, like he looked like a guy you didn't want to mess with. He had the eye black and just looked like a tough SOB. And that's how he coaches too. So it's more of a rah-rah style where Matt Entz, I think he was kind of a rah-rah guy a little bit, and Rob Ryan could be, but this guy seems to take it to another level. And how the linebackers play this upcoming season will be a massive X factor for the team. It'll be the third linebacker coach for Desmond Stevens. He's arguably the most important player on defense, in my opinion, second defensive coordinator for him. So that's a question I have too. Ideally, the continuity from last year, even though last year wasn't exactly what everyone had hoped for defensively, USC was still a 9-3 team. If they had brought everyone back, I'd feel a little bit better. The unknown of how this will all work out. Like I kind of see it as a boom or bust, where next season defensively with Patterson, who knows more about football than all of us combined, like the guy's a genius. I'm not questioning the credentials, but how is it going to work in this spot after some time off? How is he going to adjust to some of the players? Fascinating questions, and we'll get the first glimpse of that during spring practice here in a couple months.
Yeah, he seemed really excited to get to work on practice and everything. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and if you have calls, you can call us if you want to talk live. 512-4-TUNNEL is the number, and I've been trying to put up some of your comments up on the screen. Bobby on Facebook says, making the players feel important is also necessary. Riley seems to have such a flat effect. I would love to see a little more emotion.
I think Riley makes the players feel important, don't you?
I think so. I don't think that's a fair criticism, but it'll be interesting how they, gravitate towards Gary Patterson. I think people like Rob Ryan, like an older guy in that room. Now you've got an older guy that's like running the show, and someone that's done it. Someone that's proven, like you said, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Pretty good reason to stay out of coaching for a little while. I think it's going to be. It seems like he's the kind of guy that the players are going to gravitate to. We'll have to see, but he's only been on campus 4 days. He said.
I hope so. I just don't know if there's any way for us to know for sure. It seems like the guys did gravitate towards Rob Ryan last year, but the linebackers had mixed results. Like that's why I just don't know what to project here with Patterson. We see some older, especially defensive coaches like Rob Ryan comes back to coach the linebackers, and they weren't particularly good. And Bill Belichick, such a toxic guy right now with all the Hall of Fame stuff. And the defense at North Carolina was better than the offense for sure, but like there's just a big track record of guys coming back after they were in their primes to do a job, and it doesn't work out, and they have a hard time connecting with some of the kids. So we're going to have to see how that all plays out, and the fact that Patterson was out of coaching for a little bit is interesting. But if there's total buy-in and he's able to elevate what the linebackers can do and get more out of the defensive front, I feel like the secondary with Gary Patterson will be really good, even if there isn't that buy-in, just because I like the player mix that they have combined with his experience. But I think looking at the front and looking at USC's linebackers, that's going to be a huge part of it, of course, and how will Patterson get the most out of those guys? That'll be a big determiner for the season.
I was checking on the thread. Our Chris Trevino did a live thread on the Peristyle. If you're not a member, make sure you join USCfootball.com. If you're not, why not? But you should do it. So Chris was putting stuff live, and one of the things that I sort of remembered, and then got reminded of when Chris put in there, he kind of started off with the why was he out of, knowing that that's one of the criticisms or whatever, that he's been out of football for a little while, but he talked about the Hall of Fame thing, but he said, I also got to watch a lot of film. And he said, his wife watches Netflix, he watches film. And he joined, there was some media organization, Amazon, or I forget, someone that he was with. And he said the whole point was he got a free, all 22, film.
Yeah, the catapult.
Yeah, the catapult stuff that you could watch, the all 22 with the coach's version. So he could just grind on film. And he's seen Indiana and Oregon, and just seemed to, he's like, a lot of people would sort of run away from, or that would be, a negative, that you have to play Oregon and Penn State and Ohio State and Indiana. But, he liked it. He got to watch film on all those teams. So it seems like, if you're coaching, you're in your team. It seems like there's some, there might be some advantage to watching a ton of film on just everybody in college football in general the last few years, and not just worrying about your own individual team. So it sounded like it was one of those things where you're on a Mormon mission and you're not starting your football career, but you're working out. He was doing other things, even though he wasn't, coaching a team.
Absolutely. And I asked the source too, because we heard Lincoln Riley talk about, before Patterson spoke, Gary wanted an opportunity that made sense for him, and it needed to be right for him. It wasn't just like he was chomping at the bit to get back into coaching and he would have taken the first offer. So I asked someone, because we hadn't really heard Gary Patterson's name linked to other jobs, like, hey, have you heard that other schools were interested? And I got one text back and they said, yes, there was interest from at least one other program. So it wasn't like this is just Lincoln Riley bringing in his friend and not doing his due diligence on both sides. So I like that. That made me feel a little bit better, because if this was a situation where it was only USC who was looking at him to be the defensive coordinator and it was kind of that or nothing, that would have made me a little bit just questionable, or that would have made me question the decision a little bit. So the fact that clearly there's interest from other schools just because of his track record, but you do get a little bit worried with the fact that he was out of it for a few years. Like, what did that effect have on his prospects? And it didn't have much. So hearing that there was other interest in him, I think, is significant.
He mentioned the match quarters defense being similar to what like Indiana's running, and he mentioned Kirk Cignetti, that he was like,
yeah, we do a lot of similar stuff.
There were some similar things there, yeah. Like, he's a year older than Cignetti, I think, or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, so that was kind of not bad if you want to tie yourself to the current national champion. That's not bad.
Not at all. And the big thing with Patterson too is he's known for being such a great evaluator of talent. So he comes in. Portal closed. USC has the number 1 class in 2026. How about evaluating the USC roster? Like, now that he's here, is there someone who maybe was buried under the previous staff that could get more run? Like, I look at a guy like Elijah Newby. Is this someone who will be unlocked under Gary Patterson just because it's a different set of eyes examining him and scouting him and working with him every day? So the fresh start for some of the defensive guys who didn't get a lot of run last year will be something to watch. Tamir Robinson, too. I think internally, even before Patterson, they expect a lot from Robinson after he didn't do too much on defense last year. So those are two guys to pay attention to, I think.
And then I think it was 850 players or something that he had coached, and all the coaches, and he seemed to have
he's a people person.
Yeah, an affinity for seeing guys that were under his watch. That was at TCU. Like, he talked about one of his guys at Navy being like a special ops guy or something like that. And he said, guys that would go on and he said 1% of them are going to play, professional football, but they go on and they could be coaches. They could be CEOs of companies and things like that. And one of the quotes he had was, greatness happens where dreams and hard work come to meet. And I guess he had a lot of sayings like that over the years where, his players or coaches would take that with them and put it up on the wall in their company and things like that. So he seemed to be really proud of that. And there's no reason. Yeah, you should be. The amount of lives that he's touched, it was really apparent from just listening to him.
How about another quote from him? Winning is not a sometimes thing. You can wake up early one day and go exercise, but then the next day you sleep in. No, you got to be consistent. I enjoyed hearing him talk about that. He was pressed. What is one specific phrase or expression that throughout all these years you've really made your mantra? And that was what he brought up, how winning isn't a sometimes thing, which that really resonates with me. You got to bring it every day. I really like that.
One of the funnier lines he was talking about, it was just, relations with kids, being a little older, whatever. And sometimes old guys really get along. If you have a great personality, you can get along with anybody. It doesn't matter. But he did drop this one. He says that you could talk to kids differently now than you could back in the day. And he says he has, quote, better riz, I thought that was really funny.
I thought so, too. He doesn't think the players have changed, though, as we talked about a little earlier. What do you think of that? Because that, to me, I don't totally agree with him. Of course they've changed. They get paid now. I get what he's saying, where, the guys who are going to be the best will listen to me and take the coaching, and that, of course, hasn't changed. But fundamentally, the college football recruit has changed a lot, I think, in the last 20 years.
I would say so. And I think he tried to address it because he, towards the end of his career, just the whole NIL thing, he wasn't a big proponent of. He clarified what he had said. He said he didn't think it was good for college football. It wasn't that he didn't like it. And, obviously there's been a lot of stuff happening there. But, he's like, hey, I'm running the defense. These guys are bringing me. It sounded like he wasn't going to be involved in recruiting, to be honest. Like he talked about how they brought in all these great players, and it's his job to coach them up. Where he doesn't have to deal with NIL and all that stuff. Which I guess as a defensive coordinator, you don't really have to. The general manager and the head coach and, whatever. Like you're recruiting, he might be out there recruiting guys, but he's not coming up with the contracts or things like that. But it did seem sort of like he was like okay with it, but there's, he understands like sort of the role and everything, and that's really not going to be his concern as part, paying players and stuff. But the players are players, and I think they're different now because they're getting paid, and you got a bunch of guys in the locker room that it's not just, oh, you were the 5-star and you're treated differently. It's, oh, you're getting paid more than me. So I think there's, like to your point, there's things you got to deal with in the locker room that you wouldn't have had to deal with before.
Are there any players getting paid more than him? That's certainly different.
I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Like as a defensive coordinator, he's probably getting a couple million, right? I would think.
True.
Yeah.
I wanted but that was a good point. That just popped into my head. That was something Chris and I were joking about off the air. But you mentioned I've made a bad joke and now I can't even.
Oh, sorry.
My point. No, it's not your fault. He talked about how ideally he's going to be here for 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
He mentioned that at one point, and that I think is good. Like where if the team does well and Patterson's defense is good, like there's no Danton Lynn. Is he going to go to the NFL? Is he going to go be a college head coach somewhere? That question came up the last 2 off seasons, and Lynn stayed for one and then left for the other. If it goes well, like Riley and Patterson can be attached at the hip here for a few years, which I think is a good thing. That stability is important. Now, the big elephant in the room is like, will they be here for 2 or 3 years?
Yeah,
next season is a massive year for them, of course. So that could be good in the long term, but so much rides on next year that we'll just need to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that seem, and people outside the program that seem very, they like Gary Patterson a lot. From what I saw today, I like it. It's got to work though, right? I mean, if he wants to do something different in practice and then you're fighting over it, or it just doesn't, we don't know how this is going to work. He's been there for 4 days, but my initial impressions are positive. We have Anthony in the chat says, Connor, you like him or no? Seems like you still have concerns.
I like his track record. I like that he gave Lincoln Riley a hard time in some of the games when they went against each other in the Big 12, but I have concerns about how he'll resonate with some of the players. I have some concerns that the players were brought in to play under a different defensive coordinator, and now they're getting a new one. Like what happens at the first sign of adversity when, under Lynn, this is what happened. Well, now Patterson, it's my way or the highway. I do have some concerns about how the staff will mesh. Look, it's impossible to sit here on January 28th and predict the future. What do I think? Like deep down, I just think it's going to be boom or bust, where he could be really good and USC could make the playoff and it just works. It's the first time that Lincoln Riley's had an elite defense in his tenure as a head coach, and just there we go when USC makes the playoff, and it's amazing. But I could also see it not working out as well, players being frustrated that there were some changes with the coaches when they were promised that a lot of the assistants would stay. We'll see how the rest of the staff shakes out, of course. And can this guy relate to not only players he didn't recruit, but just guys who are a lot younger than he is? And is he from a bygone era? And is this Lincoln Riley bringing in his friend because he thinks that's what's best? And maybe that ends up blowing up in his face. And if Lynn had stayed, I know he took another job. It wasn't like he was fired, but was that the kind of dynamic that worked best for Lincoln Riley when he needed someone outside the box to challenge him? Is Patterson going to not challenge Riley as much? So those are just some questions I have, and I could see it working out, but I could also see it not working out. And I'm a little afraid to make like a hard and fast prediction on what it'll be here, because we really don't know what the future holds.
Yeah. I mean, early result. I mean, I like him so far. I think it could be a boom or bust thing. There's reasons why it might not work, but as far as being a friend, like if you're going to have a friend that's like, it's questionable you're bringing this guy in, like, why is that guy our CFO? And it's like, well, he's the CEO's, nephew or something, and he's not really qualified. Like the guy's in the Hall of Fame. Like he's really good at what he does. So friend or not, it's like, okay, that's, one of those things where, okay, that's the kind of guy you want as your friend to bring in that has, I think he's going to bring a lot of value, and I think a lot of respect, and just that if he says something, you're like, all right, I mean, I trusted what this guy's doing. He's done it before. He's won a lot of games. He's done a lot of, put a lot of people in the NFL. He knows what's going on. So I think he will get a lot of respect. As far as like the relating to players go, Jeff says they got a price tag and agent on top of their normal craziness. So that's a big difference now that there's like what, if someone comes into his office and like, hey, my agent says I should be playing, 3 technique and not on the edge or so, whatever, something like that. And you're like, your agent, like that's not something that Gary Patterson probably had to deal with, but I think that's good. You get the head coach involved but I think he's experienced enough that he can handle situations like that.
And I would just say now, too, how good are the players? We think the defensive line will be good, but it's very young, and Luke Wafel has a chance to be impressive, of course, and Winfield from Texas, and like those guys could be really good, and Jakeem Stewart and Floyd Buchard and Alex Van Sumer and the older guy in the room, Jade Abasiri. Like on paper, I like a lot of those guys, but not a lot of experience there. Are the linebackers good enough? Are the safeties going to be good enough? I like Christian Pierce a lot. Will Alex Graham take a step forward? Will Pierce take a step forward? Like, I think on offense, you can give Lincoln Riley the benefit of the doubt. I believe Gary Patterson when he says his goal is to make the defense as good as the offense. Of course, that's the goal. Will he be able to do that? Because the personnel in the offense, to me, is more elite than the personnel in the defense, and Patterson has a good track record of working with guys who were not the highest ranked recruits. That's another good thing, but it's a little bit different in the Big Ten against the schedule USC's going up against. So Patterson could do an amazing job too, but how good are these players on the defensive side? That kind of remains to be seen too.
Yeah.
We do have one call.
We have a call.
It's Mitch from New Jersey.
Oh, really? Real quick. It was funny to see him when he ended it with a fight on, and he was sort of like doing the horns because that's the TCU thing. And I think SMU does something with the pony, so he was like, I got to make sure you get the colors and stuff right. And he said his first coaching check was for $230, and 100 of that went to rent. So I don't know. I was really genuine. I liked what he had to say. But let's take our first call.
Hey, Mitch.
Ryan, Connor, I bet you knew it was me reading without you look at the screen.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, we get one of the toughest schedules. We can't pick who we want to play, like Notre Dame, and I think it's more this their decision that to continue playing with us. What's the difference? You play week 0 or week 10. But it was a good tradition. It was a good game. You want to play the best. We recruited quite well. And I just want to know, you think we'll get all these good incoming defensive linemen with the games? Because I want to see our freshmen, if it's really a number one class, I want to see them playing, giving the stars a little bit of rest, and don't worry about the red shirt, because hopefully we can keep, if they're good, we can keep them for at least 2-3 years, 3 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate that. Yeah, I was thinking about this, Connor, too, just the way things are going. And, that offensive tackle, the 5-star that Colorado got that ended up transferring to LSU. Seton. They got 2 years of starting out of him, but if you get a 5-star player, like, he's got to play. Like, let's wait around for a little bit, because you're going to recruit this guy every year. You've got everyone on your roster is there for a year. So Luke Waffle, whatever, like get him out there, play him.
I think he will play a lot.
Yeah, I think guys like that, you just have to play, because just because you got him, the whole thing of like, oh, we got this 5-star from no, you got a 5-star from 2 years ago. He's not on your roster anymore. He's somewhere else where he thinks he's going to play if he's not playing for you.
Certainly, and Mitch brought up the defensive linemen and rotating, and USC on paper should have the bodies to have a pretty good rotation on the inside and the outside, assuming the guys in the freshman class are ready to contribute right away. Patterson brought up that 32 of the 35 are early enrollees, so by the time fall camp rolls around, he doesn't feel like they're going to be freshmen anymore. A lot of those guys are older, too. They've reclassified, so it's a lot of 19-year-old freshmen, which all bodes well for USC. But, of course, you got to see what it looks like on the field before you can really know what you're dealing with. I had a conversation at the bowl game with someone who was very familiar with Anthony Lucas's game and how he practiced. And I guess in practice, Anthony Lucas would always light the world on fire. And then that never really translated to the games, where he was a good edge rusher for USC, but you never saw like that high-end 5-star guy in a game, really. And like USC has some of those high-end 5-star guys in this class. And it's obvious to say this, they're probably going to be able to show in practice. You got to be able to have that translate to a game too. So until we see that, a lot of those guys to me are still question marks, even though they're very highly ranked.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good point he had too. That was one of the differences is like all these guys are early enrollees. You bring them in, they have all these lifting sessions, and then you do, spring practice and then a bunch more lifting sessions. And he said, by the time you get to, August, they're really experienced and they're not really like the freshmen anymore, which is a good point. And you try to get players in the program, but they got a lot of at least reps and stuff under their belt before you even get to fall camp, and then give yourself the best opportunity possible to go in and play. We were down there on campus for the press conference today, and Chris Trevino tweeted this picture out. Was it the Bloom Center? Is that what they're calling it? What, I forget what they're called. What's the new?
Yeah, the Bloom Center.
Bloom Center, yeah. It's getting close. Katie Ryan, who helps out the media there over at USC, said, that you guys get excited about the new press room that'll be over there, and so she was really anticipating something cool, and we're gonna get some kind of tour after the spring, apparently. But it's I haven't seen it for a while. It's looking a lot closer to being done.
The word that comes to mind when I see it, state of the art.
Yes,
that looks like an amazing facility. And when some of the national writers who we deal with come to USC for their stop in the off season, and they go talk to Lincoln and they talk to the other players and coaches and stuff, they always say, well, the facility is crap. So it's nice to see USC catching up with some of the other premier programs out there. And I know Mike Loxley had that quote where it was like, well, we're getting a new facility, but I wish I had all that money for NIL.
Yeah.
It seems like USC has money for both, which is pretty good.
I'll put the picture up again. Oh, yeah. So just I'll move it up a little bit. It says, what I noticed is coming. It says coming 2026.
It's 2026?
Yeah, it's 2026. I was like, oh, yeah, that's like this year. Because before, it was starting in, was it 24 or something? And you're like, okay, that's like forever away.
Yeah.
But now it's not.
I remember the groundbreaking. That seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, then and we were like, and we walked to practice, and it was like sort of happening behind you, but just barely. And, now they've moved Dato, and like there's so much that's gone on over there. Yeah, so that was pretty cool stuff. The other thing I want to talk about, and we'll take questions after the break on anything for Gary Patterson, because we got to about 40 minutes with him, and Lincoln Riley spoke for a couple before he went up there. Didn't take any questions, but you can put your questions if you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook in the chat, or call in 512-4-TUNNEL. We already got Mitch that called in. We get people asking a lot. Are you taking live calls? Taking live calls? I don't know if Mitch was the guy that asked, but we took live calls.
He was.
Was it Mitch? Well, we got him in. That's good. The schedule. So we know not all of USC's schedule, 11/12 of it. We don't have there'll be a week 0 game. I put this in the war room, I think a couple weeks ago, that the plan was USC was going to schedule a team that was replacing where Notre Dame would be on the schedule. It's hard to picture where Notre Dame would fit in on this schedule when we take a look at it, but week 0 game against a group of 6 opponent. Need a waiver. There's some aspects going on. We probably know that soon. I was told that it would probably come out in a week or so after the Big Ten schedule release, which happened this week. And I'll put it up on the screen for everybody. This is just a screenshot from the Big Ten Network that put it out there. So we don't have a week 0 game up there yet, but that's the plan from what we were told. This is not a 2 bye week season, but USC will have 2 bye weeks because of where Notre Dame would have been, and now they're putting a week 0 game before that. But the 2 out of conference games we know of right now are Fresno State and Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, both at home. And then it will be week 3 at Rutgers, week 4, Oregon at home, week 5, Washington at home, week 6 at Penn State, and then a week 7 bye. You got a week 8 at Wisconsin. I've never been to Madison. Looking forward to that trip. Week 9, welcoming in Ohio State on Halloween. Then a Week 10 bye, so two games squeezed in between a bye. It happened this past year as well. And then to finish the season, Week 11 at Indiana, mid-November. Could be chilly. Week 12, Maryland's coming to the Coliseum. USC looking for some revenge there. And then Week 13, for the first time in I don't know how long, finishing on the road at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. So that's the schedule. And I know you and Connor, you and Shotgun, did an instant reaction to it. I liked it a lot. Listened to it on my drive into USC today. But any thoughts from that? Maybe you said on the instant reaction or anything else you've thought about since then?
Well, Shotgun and I just spent a lot of time on the 2-3 game sets that we think are so huge. So that first one, when you got Oregon and Washington at home, and then at Penn State, and then the bye, and then you have Wisconsin on the road, Ohio State, then a bye, and then at Indiana. Those are the games that are going to make or break the season to me. And as I think about it more and more, I think that Penn State game on the road is the one that really pops when I talk about this schedule, because Oregon and Ohio State will be tough, but the fact that you have those games both at home is huge. Like, if they were on the road, it's probably a stretch to say automatic loss, but just with how USC's played on the road under Riley, it just hasn't been very good against premier competition. So getting those two at home is huge. And you could argue that they don't play outside of Indiana. They don't play a premier team on the road. Penn State has that pedigree, of course, but we don't really know what they're going to look like. Wisconsin, Shotgun and I were talking about, are they going to be the surprise team in the Big Ten, or are they going to be what they've always been under Luke Fickell, underachieve, good defense, but an offense that leaves some to be desired, and Lincoln Riley should outscore them. UCLA, not really a true road game, of course. Then at Rutgers, that's a game USC should win. It's a tough schedule, but I like how it sets up for USC because they've been so bad on the road. You don't play a lot of the premier teams outside of Indiana on the road. That gives me gives you a chance, I think, to make a push for the college football playoff if you can take care of business at home, which, of course, easier said than done. But I like that the harder games, for the most part, are at home because USC's just been a lot better at home under Riley.
They have. And what I wrote in the War Room, too, was that, there's feedback from the schools. Like, there's an initial schedule, and the schools can give, hey, what if we don't play this game here, we play it there, or not home and away, we know that, but moving it around in the schedule. And from what I was told from sources, that USC, knew this was going to be tough and wanted some tweaks, and but didn't think they were going to get there. And I think it might have tweaked a little from, I didn't get the exact answer from there, but apparently would have liked to not have just 2 games between the buys. So the buys are, 3 weeks apart or whatever. You'd like to have a little bit more space. The bye maybe a little bit earlier in the schedule, like having the Week 10 bye is fine, but instead of Week 7 bye, maybe have it Week 5. Something like that, where there would be, break it up a little bit.
Do they have a leg to stand on, though, when no one else has 2 buys?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's just one of the things that that we were. But looking at it, I agree with you. Looking at it, it seems like okay. I think it makes sense. There's also, Jeff pointed out in the chat, no Saturday games. I mean, all Saturday, not no Saturdays, all Saturday games. There's no weekday.
I think one will be moved to Friday. Last year, we didn't know that the Michigan State game. Or was it Michigan State? No, what was the Friday game? Northwestern. Yeah. I think that switched after this initially came out. So,
but was there one where it said it could be, or I don't know if there was like a.
I don't think it was immediately known. I think it was Saturday, and then
that TV stuff comes.
They move it a little bit closer to the year. I think I'm remembering that right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. And then our buddy Jeff says, I got my flights booked for Penn State and Wisconsin. Got to get Rutgers in Indiana in a few months. They already booked flights.
That's dedication.
Jeff is dedicated. So, and then, this is a question here. Pedro, a Week 0 game would eliminate one of the buys. So Notre Dame was going to be during the season, and then trying to reschedule that at this late time. Notre Dame had already had a backup plan and had BYU. on there. But for USC to kind of fit it in, they felt it would work best with week 0, and that's what they're doing. So they get that extra bye with a week 0 game. So it wouldn't eliminate a bye.
Exactly. So the answer is no, because when you look at the schedule, they're going to play August 29th instead of one of the bye weeks.
Yeah. So their schedule, I mean, I think I've talked about, playoff or bust. You're going to have to win. You have to win a game against either, Oregon, Ohio State, or Indiana. I don't think that's unfair. Like those are, all playoff teams, defending national champion. But you want to be in that, you finished like 4th in the Big Ten last year. Go in and beat one of those teams. You got 2 of them at home. It's a real opportunity. This past year, we were like, well, are you going to win at Oregon? Are you going to
win at Notre Dame?
At Notre Dame. It's like even that Illinois was ranked, and you didn't win any of those games. Like now you got, like you could say at least Ohio State, maybe that's the toughest, or it could be in it. We don't know yet. But at least one of your, 2 of your toughest 3 games are at home. So you got a good opportunity to do something there.
I totally agree with that, and you're right. You got to win at least one of those games, and then that's why the Penn State game to me looms so large. Because say USC does go 1-2 against Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana, that leaves you no margin for error. Penn State on the road projects to be their toughest road game outside of Indiana. Like that's the one that could go either way, and you just got to win that one if you're going to make the playoff. The way I see it.
Yeah. One last thing, we'll take a break and do some questions. Mark says week 0 will be here. Yeah, it'll be a home game. They're not scheduling like UNLV or something and putting it on the road. So it'll be a home game in week 0. That is the plan. That is what I told. If you read the War Room a couple weeks ago, you would have got that. Okay, let's do this. We'll take a break and come back in a minute and answer some questions. Back in a minute, everyone. Alrighty, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts, any platform, Apple, Spotify, wherever. No more Google. Used to be a Google one. That was like the big one, and I don't know, they got away from the podcast for some reason, but we're everywhere, or you get your podcast. We've been doing this since 2008.
Woo.
Not with Connor, but been a long time. This was my 30th season covering USC this past season. Pretty crazy. We're going to keep rolling. I don't know how many more I got in me, but a bunch more.
I think I was in middle school in 2008.
Sweet. That's where we got. We are taking live calls, 512-4-TUNNEL. Any calls right now?
No calls right now.
Okay, get in there. 512-4-TUNNEL if you want to call in. There was a voicemail, and I was having some issues with that. I'll see if I can bring that up. But Frank in Sacramento wrote in. He doesn't always have a question, but this one actually had a question. He spelled Kirk Cignetti wrong, but much has been made of Gary Patterson's age. How many years older is he than Kirk Cignetti? So we mentioned that. 1. Yeah. Two letter, like there's 2 C's with Kirk Cignetti, and he used 0 C's. There was a so yeah, there was a K and an S. So Frank, go with 2 C's and not K's and S's there for Kurt. I think we have one in the chat. Let me pull this up too. This looks like from James. See it? Oh, there it is. Is the offensive personnel better than the defensive? I don't think so. The defense has 5 stars all over the place. The offense is pretty basic right now.
I disagree. Jade Maiava at quarterback. Wayman Jordan is an elite player on offense. I think Elijah Page is an elite player on offense. I think Tanuk Hines is an elite player on offense. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, all those really highly ranked guys for the most part are pretty young. So I like the cornerback they got from Iowa State. I think he has a chance to be an elite player when he's been healthy. He's been really, really good, so I like him. But outside of that, like Jakeem Stewart looked elite last year, was playing with an injury. He certainly projects to be elite, but I need to see a little bit more from a lot of those. And some of them are freshmen, so it's not like I don't want to hold it against them that I haven't seen anything, because no one's seen anything. But like, yeah. I think the fact that all of the majority of that talent is so inexperienced, makes me just feel better about the offense, especially when Lincoln Riley is coaching that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think there's the talent's spread out, but their experience matters. I mean, we saw what Indiana did when you got the older players that have a lot of experience. I mean, that can help you a lot. It'll be interesting because I think, Gary Patterson talked about USC's defense got a lot better last year, and I think it got better under D'Anton Lynn. But
he said that because he didn't want to piss off all the returning guys.
Yeah. They got better like 2 years ago than they were, but I think it was flat or maybe even worse, depending on what I think their FEI rankings or whatever were worse. So there are different metrics you could look at it to see. But one of the things we pointed out that D'Anton Lynn did better with more experienced players than I think last year with inexperienced ones. It'll be interesting to see what Gary Patterson does too, like with a mix of some of the experience there and then some of the raw talent, like how he is able to work with those guys in the offseason, develop them, and get them to perform on Saturdays.
Not to put you on the spot, Ryan, but
yeah,
on defense next year, you're looking at next year's team. Who to you is like a sure thing on defense? Because I think even the guys we have the highest hopes for, like a Cam Fountain, I don't know if you can call him like a sure thing, whereas you look in the offense, Jaden Maiava, I feel like is a sure thing. Wayman Jordan, I feel like is a sure thing. King Miller, I feel like is a sure thing. I left him out earlier. Tanuk Hines, after how he ended last year, to me, is a sure thing. All guys who we saw really good production and just guys who've done it, where on defense, it's a lot of potential.
There is a lot of potential. Like, do you think like a Christian Pierce or a Jakeem Stewart? Or I mean, there's some guys that you're like, okay, like they could be good, but there's not. Jaden Maiava was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country throughout the season, and we saw him the year before. All these teams, Connor, are rent a quarterback. I mean, Miami taking Duke's quarterback, even though he was under contract. There's a lot, like the market for finish your final, season, like the Carson Beck or Cam Ward or whatever. Like that's a thing. And Lincoln Riley's done it. We've seen, Jalen Hurts and whatever. He's had transfer quarterbacks. Even Caleb Williams transferred, even though we recruited him at Oklahoma. And, Jaden Maiava transferred in from UNLV after starting there. He's got a lot of experience. And, yeah, like you feel really confident that he's run this offense. He's done a really good job. There's a lot more questions on the defensive side, changing the scheme and not really sure that there's these surefire, like you said, studs that are going to be massive producers for this defense.
And I kind of think that's where the disconnect is with the fan base, where I do think you're going to get legitimate production from a good amount of that 2026 class. But, like, you can't expect a guy to come in and be an All-American right away. That's just not how it works unless you're Malachi Toney at Miami. Like, it's very rare to be that good that fast. You can be good fast, excuse me, but I just put so much value into the guys who we saw it with our own eyes last year in a USC uniform. Okay, you are good. I know you're good. Other guys last year, especially defensively, it was just too up and down.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh, there's one. Let me put this question up on the screen. If you have more questions, you can put them in there. Let's see. I'm not sure what this is. Okay. They can't go back. I'm sorry. That was the answer to the question. The question was, what about guys that go in the portal and they don't have a spot? Let me try to find that question.
Going Division II then, or JUCO, or
here we go.
Paying tuition and being a walk-on.
What happens if players enter the portal and don't get picked up? Yeah. There are instances where you could go back to the school. That's up to the coach. You could find out what, if they want to do that. But yeah, sometimes the grass isn't always greener. And if you're going, it's one of those things where tampering is it's just a thing. Most of the guys are going to the portal. The big names are going in with the do not contact tag. It's because they're not doing it to like get recruited. They were recruited. They know where they're going, but they officially put themselves in the portal, and then they know where the destination is.
And a lot of times guys get bad advice, and then when they try to go back to their schools who they entered the portal from, the schools say, no, sorry, your spot's taken. Yeah.
So that's one of those situations where there's thousands of guys in the portal, and some guys are doing it like it's like taking a shot. You're like, maybe somebody will see my film and want to pick me up, but the better players sort of know what their market is. And like Connor said, sometimes you get bad advice and you leave a good situation to go to a worse one. And, if you're leaving like Alabama and you were like the starting left guard, or back up something, and then you're like, I'm going to do something better somewhere else. And then you end up at like UTEP and, because the teams you thought were going to like, Georgia will pick me up or Ohio State will pick me up, and they don't. And then Iowa State doesn't pick you up and Houston doesn't pick you up. And then it's like, okay, now you end up at UTEP and you were at Alabama and like had a chance to start, that stuff happens. And sometimes they get bad advice, but I think the old adage that the grass isn't always greener is something that just because you have a portal doesn't mean you need to use it.
Amen.
Amen. I like that. We got a question. Our buddy Jeff. This is Jeff was not here, but he is here because he's asking this question. What do you think of the situation with Dabo and Clemson calling out the current system? So he brought receipts to the tampering and just said, hey, Ole Miss's head coach texted my guy while he was in class after he transferred here and enrolled and asked him what his buyout was. So that was pretty impressive. I don't know if anything happened to it, but that was no, coaches have been reluctant to do that, and Dabo did it.
I'm sure they're bringing it to the College Sports Commission, the new enforcement arm with college sports, and we'll see what they say. But people are operating like the rules that they're going to enforce don't apply, and they're saying we're going to drop the hammer on some teams when we get proof, and then it'll just become a lawsuit. Like whatever happened to all the schools signing the agreement that the rules by the commission would be enforced? Like that didn't go anywhere, right?
No, they haven't signed it.
Yeah, because they know that if they do, then they could actually get in trouble, and they give up their right to fight it in the courts. And I don't blame the Ole Miss coach for doing what he did, because I don't think anything's going to happen.
LSU did it to him, like it's sort of right. And my understanding is the tampering. And they've actually had a bunch of cases in the NCAA, but it's an NCAA thing. It's not a CSC thing. The CSC, they wrote that.
I thought they do tampering too, right?
My understanding was that was an NCAA thing, but I can double check on that and see. But and yeah, whatever that manifesto is from the CSC, people haven't agreed to it. There's like politicians in certain states telling their schools not to sign it. Like that's kind of a mess. And this might be a situation where Dabo throws it out there, and no one does anything, and then you just realize, okay, there are no rules. Like you're pretending there's rules. Here's a rule breaker. Oh, you did nothing. Okay, so there's no rules then.
I mean, look at Mensa with Duke and Miami. Duke said we're going to enforce the deal no matter what. You can't go into the portal, and then cooler heads prevailed at Duke, and they said, hey, look, we shouldn't set this precedent that we won't let a guy out of a deal if he wants to leave. It's just not good for business. So they settle. Miami pays Duke a lot of money, and then it's pretty much a freaking trade.
Yeah, no, and that's what it comes down to. There's a price on everything. Like, hey, he signed a deal. Miami wants it really bad. Well, pay me a whole bunch of money.
He's in their league, by the way. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's another one. I think we got one more, and then we'll probably be out of here unless we have some calls. Justin, where do we hope Maiava's ceiling / floor is for this upcoming year? Do you hope he uses his legs a bit more and hopefully cuts down on costly turnover / decision making?
I see his floor being the same as this year. Better decision making for the most part. Ability to use his legs when he needs to. I like his floor this year. You want to see him improve on the road, of course, but like he, to me, proved I was a doubter that he wouldn't be able to stop turning the ball over, and he did a good job of that. So the ceiling to me now, I think, with another year under Riley, is pretty damn high, especially considering the fact that now this is his third season in this system, working with that coach, offensive line that is going to bring back everyone, some new look receivers. So that's a question on the offense. Is you got a really good quarterback, a good offensive line, we think. What about this new look receiving core? That's going to be a big question, but I think Maiava's ceiling is very, very high, to the point where I could see him like being the number 1 overall pick in the draft if it all goes well. Like, I don't rule anything out in terms of a ceiling with him.
Yeah, no, I think he has a very high ceiling, and he raised his floor. Like, he was a high ceiling, low floor guy in 2024, raised the floor. I have no reason to expect the floor dropping anymore. So, yeah, I mean, he should be a Heisman finalist, I think, this year. Like, Riley's done it a bunch of times. He put up some really good numbers. Now, they're going to have to win some games. It'll be tough if they go like 8-4 and, lose to all the big names on their schedule. That'll be tougher, but I think he could put up some really big numbers there. We got a last minute, super chat. Eddie from Orange, almost $2. This is a thank you, Connor, for growing the beard.
You're welcome, Eddie.
$2 for growing the beard. Eddie, by the way, the composite 2-star recruits, half of that brain trust is in the other room right now. I've tried to get them to do this live. It's probably a Gerard thing. I think Chris would do it because he doesn't care. But that hasn't happened yet, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Eddie, thank you for being a loyal listener, and thanks for the couple of bucks. I guess we got one last one. We'll throw this under the wire. Do you think any freshmen will start on defense, and if so, who?
I could see Luke Wafel start on defense. Who else? Oh, Albert Hill, Rock Hill, the cornerback. If he has a really good camp, I could see him starting. Those are the two that come to mind immediately. I think a lot of those, or not a lot, but some of the interior defensive line guys could be in a rotation. I don't know if they'll start right away. I see Jakeem Stewart and Jide Abasiri locking down those starting roles. Talanoa Ely, if he really has a great camp, could he start at linebacker? I know, listening to Gerard, he thinks he's going to need some time, so I'm not sure about him. And if USC has a number of safeties in this class who they'll transition into that role, but I don't think any of the safeties are ready. So, yeah, I'd say Hill and Wafel would be the two guys who I would put first on that list in terms of starters.
All right. And then this is like sort of a generic college football question from Pedro.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Does college football need a commissioner? 100%. But you got these fiefdoms. The SEC, you think Sankey wants to give up power? Do you think Tony Petitti wants to give up power to the Big Ten? No. They're running the thing. But it would be great if someone who was not thinking, how can we make the SEC better? Or how can we make the Big Ten better? Or how do we make the Pac-12 relevant? Or how does the Big 12, get better at football and like we are in basketball? And you're thinking about the entire sport. Someone that's taking everybody's, you got to weigh, well, this might hurt the SEC a little bit, but it helps the Big 12 and it's better for college football. We're going to do it. Where the SEC would never do that now. Or that's going to hurt the Big 10 a little bit, but man, it's going to make the ACC so much better. Nope, we can't do that because it's going to hurt the Big 10. Someone that looks for the entire sport. You got Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, gets paid like $40 million a year. It's all about the shield. They protect the sport. They want to make sure the NFL dominates, and they dominate year after year. And if one of the owners is doing something stupid and it's going to hurt the shield, no, you're not doing I know you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter. You're not doing the stupid stuff anymore. We don't have anybody like that in college football, and it would be great, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
We're too far down the path to where a commissioner could be effective unless there's fundamental change. There's 133 teams, right? So that's a little bit different than the NFL. They all play in different conferences. Of course, like it's one thing to be a commissioner of a 32-team league. It's a lot easier. Imagine if there was just 32 college football teams. Like then, of course, it would be a lot easier. But now there's just so many different interests, and it's just gone down the path so far that I don't even think if they named Roger Goodell the commissioner of college football tomorrow, like for Division I, what is he going to do? He's not in a position to be able to do anything because of how the rules are set up.
Yeah, we'll get one in a super league, so we won't have this, what we got now. It's hard to do what we have now, like 136 teams or whatever, but I think a super league, that's what, you're not going to have like a super league with like, oh, there's conferences. No, the super league is like, there's a league, and this dude or this person, whoever it is running the league. They're the commissioner of the league. And yeah, I think that's where the next thing we will get to. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Good stuff. I had some weird technical stuff coming in. The internet was down. There was all kinds of weird stuff.
You made it work.
We got it working, A wise woman once said, I make crap happen, right?
Yep, that's right.
We make it happen. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And wherever you're listening, if you're watching, we really appreciate everyone tuning in and sending in questions and calling in. We love all that. It's a lot of fun for us. Hopefully it's a lot of fun for you. But for Connor Morrissette, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.